was indicated to be the great accomplishment in the delivery of justice, the clearance of backlog, delivery of fast justice. But as a result of poor administration in realizing that certain divisions of the High Court and specialized court like the ELC and the Employment and Labor Relations Court could not be fused together to make these determinations in the manner in which he had purposed. Now, the net effect of this is that more judicial time will be spent to determine this more than 4,000 cases whose trial now of necessity 400. Have to begin afresh. Yeah, sorry about that, 400. And what about the individuals who had participated in this determination? Some of them had been released. It will mean then they'll have to be arrested. Some of them had been convicted and sentenced to jail terms. It means now they have to go through the trial afresh.
All right, so that's a very interesting situation, of course, just even as we take a look at how David Maraga brings reforms to the judiciary. But let's move away from that and take a look at page 9 of the paper. In politics, Uhuru and Raila lieutenants now take charge of vote hunting in key regions. And of course, we've seen a lot of the battle between these two parties, Jubilee and the Nasser Brigade. But Alexander and Daniel, both of you are independent candidates, but you got to this position through the Wiper ticket, which is a NASA affiliate, of course. Talk to us about the vote hunt, especially in these regions. While you were a member of Wiper, of course, you must know the dynamics there, especially in the coastal region for NASA.
Yeah, I'd like to come up clear that if you can check the names which are stated there, both for Jubilee and both for NASA and for Jubilee, are horde guards. Definitely, as is said, that odd is God.
Right.
If you check all what are there, they are hedged and they have experience in politics.
Of course,
so
Jubilee appointment here being named as Ken Lusaka, Charles Nyachaya, Gideon Mungaro, and Job Mutambu. In terms of NASA, they have Kipruto Kirwa, Patrick Ntutu, Mukindia Kirigu, and David Nkedianye. None of these are new names to us, of course, as you say.
They are not new names, and that's why they are targeting the horde guards who have experience in politics, who have been in politics from long time ago, that they can woo votes. Those who have got powers, you can check the histories of Nyachai, who is a kingpin in Nyanza area, that is the Kisii County, whereby he can bring a lot of votes to the Jubilee administration. Although, to my understanding, being a former Wiper member of Wiper, I believe that using Nyachai to who votes for Jubilee is just a waste of time, because generally Kisii County and Nyanza, to be specific, is all in NASA. And as I'm an independent candidate in the coming election, definitely I have to be affiliated to a specific coalition, whereby I'm affiliated to NASA. I'm not affiliated to Jubilee.
Right, and we'll be talking about that, why it is definite that you have to be affiliated to another coalition while you're an independent candidate. But Daniel, let's get your thoughts on the appointment chosen by both Jubilee and NASA. And as Alexander says, of course, both of them, I mean, both parties, they're choosing old guards to lead their vote hunting missions.
Wow. 73 days now to the general election. You would expect both of the coalition now to put their best in terms of earning these votes. Choosing these old guards, as you're putting it, it's an advantage to them, because again, they know the terrain, they know the numbers, and they know how to mobilize these people or the voters on board. But again, you'll also agree with me that the time that is left, and again, the people whom they have chosen, it will also depend on the efforts by the lieutenants themselves as far as the mobilization is concerned. NASA has got an upper hand when it comes to now the guys they have chosen, because looking at like the cost now, cost is almost NASA. It's something, it's under the NASA umbrella. Majority of the voters or supporters of NASA, they come from the coast, which now makes it better or gives them a higher chance compared to Jubilee. Looking at, as my friend was saying, picking some guys like Nyachai to head some regions that are NASA affiliated, it means basically Jubilee is losing it out. Yeah.
All right. I mean, let's get your thoughts on this, Harvey. Do you think this appointment will deliver the assigned or the specific numbers that Jubilee and NASA are looking for? Jubilee is eyeing 11 million votes. NASA is eyeing 10 million votes.
Yes and no. Yes and no. It will also depend on the efforts put as far as this exercise is concerned. You can't just sit down and say, because we have Nyachai, we have the other guys from other regions, you are so sure that the votes will come. No. a lot must be done. More efforts as far as now the captains like Raila and Odinga and the Kalonzo team, the Uhuru and the Ruto team, they must do more.
Right.
They must do more.
Harvey, just before we come to you, Alexander, considering that dynamics have changed quite a bit, a lot of independent candidates, a lot of frustrated candidates. So even as you talk about this appointment, take a look at page 10 of the paper, why NASA should not take its cost support for granted. Because as we speak, there's a lot of ODM or NASA-affiliated politicians who've decamped to Jubilee, and many of them are very strong politicians in the coastal region. So will these appointments that have been picked out be able to deliver the 10 million votes?
The appointment of this appointment is quite strategic. And let's take the coastal region, for instance. You'll find that those individuals who have been singled out to undertake the exercise on behalf of Jubilee were, so to speak, dissidents within ODM code and eventually NASA. So there is a heightened determination on Jubilee to ensure that they get as high a number of votes as possible within coast, which appears to be a very strong region for NASA. So I think Jubilee means business. They want to snatch the best they can get out of this. Whether that will be realized, I think it's something that we're yet to see, but it must be understood. If you look at the individual they have now appointed in the coastal region, compared to the most able generals that NASA has in that region, Hassan Joho, Amason Kingi, Senator Hassan Omar. These are heavyweights. I don't think his name will even appear anywhere when they're listing their accomplishment in the voter hand. But
just taking a look at this article here on page 10, it says that most of the seats that ODM won during 2013 were not as a result of ODM's popularity in the region, but a result of the personalities' popularity in the region. It was more politics of personality other than party politics. Alexandra, do you think that that could shift the chances for NASA in the coastal region?
Definitely, yes, it has to bring some impact, because if I can just go a bit ahead, that the primaries were not all that clear.
Right.
And as a result of the primaries, definitely, for instance, several of us in independent, as a result, we decided to go as independent because of the flawed nominations, the primaries, whereby some of the candidates in the larger position, maybe the members of parliament or the governors or the senators also, they were affiliated to, they had their preferred candidates, meaning that you have already split that vote. If it is a NASA, if it's a Jubilee, you have split that vote.
Has it really been split? Because we have the likes of independent candidates like you are running as independents, but still supporting Raila Odinga's presidential bid.
It will depend on how the coalition heads will work on the dependent candidates. Because you can, a presidential candidate cannot stand and say that I will not campaign for independent candidates.
Right.
If it definitely come to my ward and campaign against me, definitely I have my supporters. I might support the candidate, but my supporters might decide not to support the candidate because of fighting the other person. It's very much important that in areas whereby we have independent candidates, the party leaders or the coalition leaders should not campaign for any candidate in that area, because that can split the vote. And if you sense the margin of 1 million, 10, 11, it's very tricky.
Right.
It's just my friend just said, if there is yes or no, it might be a reason for that. Also
running as an independent candidate, maybe just to pick your thoughts on the fact that, ODM's stance and Raila Odinga's stance on independent candidates, and of course supporting six-piece voting for ODM. Are you still supporting his presidential bid after that?
I don't know whether Raila Odinga can support six-piece, because definitely currently we are not supporting six-piece. We have independent candidates. We have Wiper. We have ODM. We have ANC.
But he has said he will not campaign for independent candidates. Or is that just propaganda made up by the media?
I cannot say it's propaganda, but let campaign start and know what exactly you're going to say about it. Because we have the NASA has over 5 parties. You cannot say you are going to vote suit.
Right.
Because if you say you vote suit, definitely then ODM will be voted in, or Wiper or ANC or for Kenya. That can bring a lot of issue in that election. Right,
Daniel, let's get your thoughts on this as an independent candidate as well. This is not just in the opposition. We've had this across the political divide, even within Jubilee. Incumbents especially have a lot of resistance towards independent candidates, saying you need to accept the decision or the results of the nomination and support them instead. So that being the situation, are you still supporting the presidential bid of either Raila Odinga or Uhuru Kenyatta?
Okay, yes. Let me say this. The presidential aspirants may say what they want, but trust you me, the independent candidates, it's a force that you can't ignore. The numbers, you can look the number of independent candidates that have popped up, and they have a very great following. As my friend has also indicated, following the flawed nominations, if I was rigged out and I have my strong following, why should I opt out? I should just get back into the rest through an independent candidature. So, and again, saying I saw the Jubilee set is supporting the independent candidates. But the NASA team, I saw Kalonzo say that you shape in or you shape out. If you are not with us, you are not with us, something like that. Well, I was just looking at those guys and I asked myself, now, if I go to the ground there, the grassroots, or even Kalonzo himself or the Raila himself can't go there, I go campaign for themselves. I'm asking votes from the voters to vote these guys in. So who are they to say no? At the end of the day, I must be affiliated somewhere. They must accept that we are campaigning for them. Anyway, and again, you can't force somebody to campaign for him. If they so wish that they don't want for us to campaign for them, then who are we to force?
They simply don't.
Yeah.
All right, Javi, let's get your thoughts on this. So much resistance towards independent candidates has been coming out, especially in the past 2 weeks. Your thoughts on how this is likely to play out? Are we likely to see popular politicians running as independents losing out on this post and possibly setting them back in their careers?
I think the high number of independent candidates is something that may worry us for now, but I think it may not be a big concern eventually. The reason being that the entire framework of Kenyan political structure was designed within the party base, so that even in the county assemblies, even in the National Assembly, in the Senate, we have the majority and the minority. And the reason as to why the individuals within the echelon of leadership of the big parties are quite concerned. If these independent candidates have to be in the field, will they constitute a majority or a minority for me? Should I win or become the official head of the opposition? And I think their reasons are justified, because it's only then that a leader of a particular party who forms government or forms the opposition is able to chaperone, is able to whip his group to ensure that they're able to pass legislation, they're able to make policies and govern. And that does not mean that the independent candidates do not have a say, because in the decision that was made by the High Court yesterday, the High Court recognized the fact that an independent candidate has the right to put his or her name on the ballot, and also to seek the will of the populace to support him or her, irrespective of which party, irrespective of which affiliation, be it independent or be it political. So to that extent, a choice as to who to support, either by the candidates themselves or by the party leaders, is just a strategic decision. Yes.
All right, of course, and we've seen a lot of independents doing that. Let's move on to the Saturday Nation then. Delve on the front page. It's now or never for Raila Odinga, and that story continues on page 4 and 5 of the Nation newspaper. And so Raila starts his ultimate race of his career, and of course, he will be making his way to KICC to present his nomination papers. He's expected to be followed by a host of his supporters as well. But our ODM Director of Elections, Judith Mohammed, says if there is a time that Raila has prepared for the polls, then this is it. Alexander, we've seen Raila Odinga try out this several times. Do you think this is the time?
To be sure, this is the right time for Raila, and this is the best time. It is this time or never, because currently Raila Odinga has the full support of the nation. We have, initially we had the Wiper and ODM as CORD, plus Ford Kenya. But now we have united Ford Kenya and the ANC, which is a very big bloc in the western area. We have also united the Coastarians. Yeah. Yes, initially Coast used to vote, Taita Taveta used to vote a bit in Jubilee administration, Kano, that is. But currently now we have that block in hand. The regions, to be specific, we have a touch of the ground. The region in the Rift Valley area, both the upper and lower Rift, we have the numbers.
Right.
So I believe that there is no way, I don't see an option for Kenyans to have a different president apart from President Raila Odinga. So that is a fact. I don't believe whether there is, we don't need to use a lot of money like how Jubilee are using, but we are ready and prepared as voters Kenyan voters, and we are going to vote Raila Odinga as the president the coming election. I don't think there is any other option.
You know, you don't sound as an independent candidate at all while you say that. But Daniel, let me get your thoughts on page 6 of the paper here. State officers on the campaign trail. And we had a lot of complaints about this with civil servants and other government officers backing Jubilee seemingly in a political manner. And now we're seeing many of them taking into active politics, so to speak, to campaign for the Jubilee party. A lot of controversy about this. Of course, state officers in the Constitution are not supposed to take part in political campaigns. But of course, it's political season. Your thoughts on this?
Well, now, you don't bite the figure that feeds you. That is number one. So to speak, as these guys are campaigning for the incumbent government, they know that is the government that feeds them. That is their employer. So what do you expect from them? To campaign for the government? Especially in scenarios where they feel like their government is not faring on well, they come out and try to campaign for the government. But again, looking at it as the state officers, as you've put it, it's not good for them to campaign. Because I remember when Uhuru was campaigning, they said that the state officers won't be included in the political setup because they will be technocrats for that matter. But looking at it, that now they are already on the campaign trail, they are defending their own father. But to me, I would be against it because now they are state officers. They should be working for the government and the opposition, as in the Mwananchi entirely, not specifically to work for the government alone. Yeah.
So, I mean, Harvey, you cannot fight, do not bite the hand that feeds you. Does this mean that there's a lapse in the constitutional provision in terms of state officers not participating in politics?
You know, reality is reality. Let's not call a spade a big spoon or a small spoon, whatever. But let's be real. If this is a government, it's the one that has employed you. You have been working for it for the last 5 years. You're in a better position to defend that government. So these guys, I want to say, even if there is that lapse, as you put it, it was there, and they knew it will come to pass. Because now they're saying, like, how do we agree, or should we just sit back and look that our government is going to fail in the coming election? No, they must come out to defend it strongly, and that is their business, in fact. Yeah. All
right, Nelson, let's get your thoughts on this, even as you interpret the Constitution better for us.
I think the fundamental question is the one that was posed in Romeo and Juliet, that what is in a name if that which we call a rose by any other name will smell as sweet? Look, I think if you look at these individuals, be it Najib Balala, be it Eugene Wamalwa, be it Honorable Kiunjuri, these are politicians. It was a catastrophic mistake to appoint them cabinet secretaries. And you remember, during the formative stage of the constitution of his cabinet, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President Ruto made it quite clear. In fact, the first few faces they brought forward were a breath of fresh air. Individuals with competence, abilities, academic qualification, accomplished careers in their respective fields. Now, if you are to ask me, what does Honorable Eugene Wamalwa excel in respect of the ministry in which he was appointed? What does Honorable Kiunjuri excel in? What does Honorable Najib Balala? They are politicians, for heaven's sake. And I think to that extent, I think there's been a big contravention of the provisions of the Constitution. And it may be explained. I think it just underscores the level of desperation on the part of the Jubilee administration to ensure that they're able to explain away many of the deficiencies that have been pointed out in respect of their administration. And also, it goes along to indicate part of their strategy. If you look at it critically, most of the competent generals that Honorable His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta may have had before have departed him or have been purged during the nomination process.
Right.
So he doesn't have generals. So
but the thing is, it's such a thin line, and this has been asked many times. Where do we draw the line between the Jubilee administration and the Jubilee party? Because at the end of the day, the Jubilee party will give its track record in form of the Jubilee administration, and that means working with these technocrats, so to speak. So where do we draw the line then between Jubilee campaigning with state officers and using them to show the progress of the Jubilee administration?
The problem is they have planted the bougainvillea together with the roses, so that you're not able to identify what is the smell of the rose or what is the smell of the bougainvillea. But the manner in which the Constitution was structured was that the cabinet secretaries were supposed to be technocrats, so to speak, with the effect that they could even be subsumed in subsequent administrations to provide a track record and a chronological development of the government, notwithstanding the fact that they have been appointed by a political affiliation that has ascended to power. That differentiation was very important, so that should the political administration be put into disrepute, then the functions of the cabinet secretaries are also not conjoined with any ill that may face the political aspect of that administration.
Right.
So that the more you bring out Najib Balala, the more we're able to see the follies in the administration. The more you bring out Kiunjuri and ask them, when they come to speak, they speak nothing about their respective ministries. They just speak politics.
All right. I'd like us to exhaust the papers and move away from that. Page 19 of The Nation, IEBC, police and courts must do the right thing to prevent poll violence. As we speak, 73 days to the election, and we've had 3 aspirants for the member of county assembly who've been killed, and their killers are still at large, and something that has caused quite a bit of tension, especially among aspirants and even their supporters. But even as we speak, there's also a lot of questions as to how we're going to curb hate speech in the country. We've seen the National Commission, Cohesion and Integration Commission now partner with IEBC as well as the police in an attempt to curb hate speech in the country. But let's begin with you, Alexander. I mean, many Kenyans rarely believe what the police say, and when the police try to do something new, Kenyans will just dismiss it as a PR stunt, which will be over in about a week. So in terms of the police, the IEBC and the courts, major stakeholders in upholding peace in the country are concerned. Where do they need to begin?
In fact, before we move to the police and whatever you're talking about, I think it's very much important we Kenyans to understand elections is just a period, 73 days. After election, we'll just be in Kenya. Know where we are going. Let the Kenyans understand that with or without the candidates you are campaigning for, Kenya has to be. The best thing we have to do, not about the police, not about the IEBC, is about you yourself, me, myself. I should know that if my candidate is not voted in, it doesn't mean that that's the end of my life. We have to move ahead. It is not a must for me to be in the assembly of the Nairobi City County. If I penetrate, well and good. If I fail, my life has to continue.
Right.
My supporters also has to continue. I think the ball is on the Kenyans.
The voters themselves.
The voters themselves.
But
They
I mean,
should not
this
bring the issues
violence many times during elections has mostly been blamed on the aspirants themselves and the politicians, especially when they refuse to accept defeat. They're in a position to, incite their supporters, so to speak, not to accept the results as well.
If you're democratic enough as an aspirant, let me give an example of myself. When we went for the primaries, we had no primaries, to be specific, because in my ward we are about 7,500 Wiper members. But when we were only, I think, about 110 voted, and then issues broke up. There was infighting there. I controlled my guys. I said, no, please, no fighting. Let us calm down. We might have another primary. But it went to there. I don't want to go deep on that.
Right.
But I count my people and inform them, please don't fight, don't shout. The police has their power. That is their work, to disperse the people who are there. Just leave, go home. We should give reports tomorrow. That is how an aspirant should do.
Right, and
it's not a matter of telling them, let us get into the streets. That's early Stonehenge issues. We should control our people. We should also educate them during our campaigns. I cannot go and encourage my guys to echo someone. It starts there.
All right. Danny, let's get your thoughts on this, especially with the politicians, aspirants and candidates inciting the supporters. And Alexander says, if you're democratic enough, but how democratic are our 15,082 aspirants running for the elections in August?
Well, it all starts with the personality, from the candidates themselves. Let me tell you one thing, Michelle. If you're a peace-loving Kenyan, you will know that an election period is just but a part of life. And you must agree that your followers must be like yourself, because they will always emulate your behaviors, how you talk, how you present yourself to them. So as far as this election is concerned, we as aspirants, we must walk the talk. We must preach peace, tell our supporters, that this is just an electioneering period. We just want to get the best out of the many candidates who have presented themselves. Like for instance, in Eastleigh Northward, for the MCA seat, we are 17 of us. So at the end of the day, we expect only one will manage to have that seat or to win that seat. So as far as I'm concerned, myself, I preach peace. I tell my guys, let's look at these candidates in terms of content, what they have for us, their manifestos, how they are able to legislate, how they are able to represent us. Once you have that in yourself, you don't need now to start shouting or inciting people, because people themselves, they have the power to vote you in or vote you out. So it's how you present yourself, and this is my ample call. Once we are looking to, or we are looking or selecting our leaders, let's go for those who are integrity, those people who can stand for peace, those people who can stand for development. With this, I don't think there will be any need for us to throw stones, fight one another, because again, you are looking at the content of an individual, not how much you can yell on the streets, not how much you can make noise.
And the integrity question is one we will discuss after the break in our weekend review. But Nelson, let's focus on the fact that this is the highest number of political aspirants we've seen in Kenya's history. How is this likely to play out, especially with the entrant of independent candidates? We saw what happened in the party primaries, and those who felt aggrieved, those several bouts of violence. And like they say, the party primaries is a rehearsal of the real thing. What happens in the primaries is likely to happen during the election. So that being said, what do our political aspirants and all stakeholders involved need to do to ensure peaceful polls in August?
I think if there was a breakdown in the result transmission during the 2013 election, then there will be an explosion of the entire exercise come 8th of August. Reason being that we have a very high number of contestants in this race, most of whom have been created by my colleagues here. They represent a very big number. In fact, I mean, we were wondering how will the ballot paper look like?
Right.
We will not be able to condense.
I mean,
let's
if you
say,
have
like
17 MCA aspirants in Embakasi North alone,
Exactly.
and that is just the MCA position.
Yeah, so I think IBC may need to go to the government printer to print ballot books to be able to accommodate all these individuals. And the level of preparedness on the part of the IBC is also something that is quite concerning to the general public. The time frames are really so congested, and it doesn't appear quite clear that the IBC will be able to give us a credible result within a short period of time. And despite the call for peace and the responsibility by the police to maintain law and order, a failure to deliver any decision within the time expected is likely to cause anxiety. And this is something that cannot be contained by tanks or the barrels of a gun or tear gas. So I think it is incumbent on the part of the IBC to keep and ensure that the house is in order within this period of about 2 months, so that an election is conducted in a manner that does not only give us a result, but gives us a result that looks to be free and fair.
What's your thought on the role that political aspirants play in terms of maintaining peace?
It's very difficult to impose that obligation on aspirants. I think the individuals with whom this responsibility has been given has always been the police, the courts of law, and all of them, to a large extent, have disappointed. And I do not think that this acrimony is just concentrated within this electioneering period. I mean, we've had so many cases of hate speech being tried in court. We saw most of these fellows abuse communities. We saw most of these fellows abuse their fellow politicians on TV. And then when they are processed through the court process, we're told there was no evidence.
Right.
You can imagine.
Despite having video and audio proof.
Yes, you can imagine now telling people, please contain your group. But why didn't you contain the other group? This is something that may not be managed by the aspirants. In fact, more often than not, the aspirants do not have control over their supporters. Their supporters will carry them shoulder high and take them wherever they want their agenda to be pushed.
All right, and I'd like us to finish off with page 14, and this is a cartoon on page 14. I don't know if we could have that up on the screen, but it's basically an elephant who represents the rogue aspirants, and a puppy, which is the IEBC. Then the IEBC, which is the puppy, is barking at the elephant, which is very big and doesn't feel basically any threat from the puppy there. I'm hoping you could have that up on the screen in just a moment. But Alexandra, as we finish up very briefly, this is a representation that IEBC seemingly does not have a grasp on the political aspirants that we have. Is that your stand?
No, the IEBC can impose their powers because they know we have the regulations of elections. So definitely they have to use they have to be strict on their regulations. They have we signed code of conduct. Why can't the IEBC be strict on that?
All right, Daniel, very briefly, your thoughts on the IEBC, especially in ensuring that aspirants follow electoral laws?
Yes, IEBC is very much able to do that because, again, they have all the machineries. They have, again, it's not about the IEBC itself. It's about agency task. They need to involve the police. They need to involve the judiciary and every other organ that maybe will facilitate this free and fair election. So IEBC has got all it takes to control how aspirants move, how they do their stuff, and they at least we have a credible election at the end of the day.
All right. Gentlemen, I'd like to take a short break here on Weekend Express. And Nelson Harvey, Daniel Kengo, and Alexandra Mulatia on our newspaper review. We take a short break, but when we come back, remember, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has ordered an integrity test on the 15,082 candidates running for the August 8th elections. Those results and those names will be delivered to the IEBC tomorrow. We'll be waiting to see those names.